Media mic check. Media, please check with your camera. 3, 2, 1. Cameras, please give thumbs up. Okay. Media, we are rolling live, and in few minutes from now we are starting off the event. जस्ट आपके इन्फॉर्मेशन के लिए कुछ तीन चार चीज़ें बता दूँ यहाँ पर। जैसे ही प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ सोवेनियर्स हो रहा है, जैसे ही चीफ गेस्ट का एड्रेस सब ख़त्म होता है, उसके बाद वो गिफ्ट्स एक्सचेंज करेंगे और उसके बाद सीधा चले जाएंगे फोटोग्राफी करने के लिए, ग्रुप फोटोग्राफी। उससे पहले ये जो आपने ब्रिज क्रॉस किया है, वहाँ पे ब्रिज पे खड़े होकर हाथ मिला रहे हैं चीफ गेस्ट के साथ। शिप का पूरा क्रू, जो आपको ऑलरेडी इन्फॉर्मेशन दी गई है, 17 लोग हैं, उनके साथ एक एक करके हाथ मिलाएंगे। और उसके बाद वहाँ पे ग्रुप फोटोग्राफी होगी जहाँ पे हमारा मीडिया इंटरेक्शन हुआ था। उसके बाद जहाँ पे मीडिया इंटरेक्शन हुआ है, उसी के जस्ट बगल में आपके लिए डेजिग्नेटेड एरिया है जहाँ पे मीडिया को कैमरास लगाना अलाउड है। प्लीज़ उसके आगे मत जाइए, उसके पीछे रह करके ही आप सारा कवरेज कर सकते हैं। क्लियर? आर यू एबल टू हियर मी, अंडरस्टैंड? थम्स अप। ओके, मीडिया इज विथ मी। यस, थैंक यू।
नमस्कार देवियों, सज्जनों और प्यारे बच्चों। इस ऐतिहासिक समारोह में आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत है। सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है, आप कृपया अपने स्थानों पर बैठ जाएं। आज का समारोह कुछ ही समय में शुरू होने वाला है। देवियों और सज्जनों, एक बार फिर सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है अपने स्थानों पर बैठ जाएं। आज का समारोह कुछ ही समय में शुरू होने वाला है। सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है, इतनी सीरियसली मत देखिए। आज का समारोह बड़ा ऐतिहासिक समारोह है और जो दर्शक आज के समारोह के बारे में नहीं जानते, आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि आज़ाद भारत में पहली बार एक ऐसे सेलिंग वेसल का निर्माण हुआ है जिसमें कोई भी आधुनिक तकनीक नहीं अपनाई गई। दोस्तों, आईएनएसवी कौंडिन्या, इंडियन नेवी सेलिंग वेसल कौंडिन्या लकड़ी का बना जहाज है। इसमें केवल लकड़ी इस्तेमाल की गई है, नारियल के धागों की रस्सियां और नेचुरल रेजिन्स का प्रयोग किया गया है। तो ये कहानी शुरू कहाँ से हुई थी? ये कहानी आज से हजारों साल पहले शुरू हुई थी, जब प्राचीन भारत में हमारे प्राचीन मेरीनर्स जो हैं हिंद महासागर को पार करके दुनिया के अनेक देशों में और समुदायों में जाके व्यापार करते थे। आज आपको समझ में आ जाएगा कि हिंद बाईं तरफ वहां पे है। और सभी दर्शकों को बताना चाहेंगे, अगर किसी को किसी प्रकार की तकलीफ हुई तो मेडिकल टीम और एम्बुलेंस भी यहाँ पर तैनात है। किसी भी दर्शक को किसी प्रकार की तकलीफ हो तो कृपया ड्यूटी पर्सनल को आप बता दीजिएगा। और समारोह के बाद में आपके दाहिनी तरफ जो ये बना है टेंट हाउस, यहाँ पे समारोहिक लंच होगा सबके लिए। और अगर कोई भी आपदा होती है तो एक इमरजेंसी एग्जिट भी है उस तरफ। पैनिक करने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं। प्यारे दोस्तों, एक बार फिर से आपको बताना चाहूँगा, मोबाइल फ़ोन को साइलेंट कर दीजिए, लेकिन जब मौका आए तो तालियों को पूरी वॉल्यूम पे बजाइएगा।
कंस्ट्रक्शन हुआ है उसी के जस्ट बगल में आपके लिए डेजिग्नेटेड एरिया है जहाँ पे मीडिया को कैमरास लगाना अलाउड है। प्लीज़ उसके आगे मत जाइए, उसके पीछे रह करके ही आप सारा कवरेज कर सकते हैं। क्लियर? आर यू एबल टू हियर मी, अंडरस्टैंड? थम्स अप। ओके, मीडिया इज विथ मी। यस, थैंक यू।
नमस्कार देवियों, सज्जनों और प्यारे बच्चों। इस ऐतिहासिक समारोह में आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत है। सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है, आप कृपया अपने स्थानों पर बैठ जाएं। आज का समारोह कुछ ही समय में शुरू होने वाला है। देवियों और सज्जनों, एक बार फिर सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है, अपने स्थानों पर बैठ जाएं। आज का समारोह कुछ ही समय में शुरू होने वाला है। सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है, इतनी सीरियसली मत देखिए। आज का समारोह बड़ा ऐतिहासिक समारोह है और जो दर्शक आज के समारोह के बारे में नहीं जानते, आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि आज़ाद भारत में पहली बार एक ऐसे सेलिंग वेसल का निर्माण हुआ है जिसमें कोई भी आधुनिक तकनीक नहीं अपनाई गई। दोस्तों, INSV कौंडिन्या, इंडियन नेवी सेलिंग वेसल कौंडिन्या, लकड़ी का बना जहाज है। इसमें केवल लकड़ी इस्तेमाल की गई है, नारियल के धागों की रस्सियां और नेचुरल रेजिन्स का प्रयोग किया गया है। तो ये कहानी शुरू कहाँ से हुई थी? ये कहानी आज से हजारों साल पहले शुरू हुई थी, जब प्राचीन भारत में हमारे प्राचीन वुडन सेलिंग वेसल that revives India's ancient shipbuilding and seafaring traditions. The vessel shall be flagged off today for her maiden oceanic voyage from Porbandar, Gujarat to Muscat, the capital of the Sultanate of Oman, symbolically retracing the historic maritime routes that connected ancient India with countries and communities across the Indian Ocean. When we think about it, we will now realize why the Indian Ocean is called the Indian Ocean. Sri Sanjeev Sanyal, economic advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of India, inspired by a 5th century painting in the Ajanta caves and drawing upon traditional shipbuilding techniques. Sri Sanjeev Sanyal conceptualized this project as a tangible tribute to India's maritime legacy, to stitch together history and modernity by resurrecting the stitched ship method, where wooden planks are sewn together using coir ropes and coconut fiber, sealed with natural resin, an engineering marvel practiced by Indian shipwrights for centuries together. Inspired by depictions of ancient Indian ships and constructed entirely using traditional stitched plank techniques, INSV Kaundinya represents a rare convergence of history, craftsmanship, and modern naval expertise. Unlike contemporary vessels, the wooden planks of INSV Kaundinya are stitched together using coconut coir ropes and sealed with natural resins, reflecting a shipbuilding tradition which was once prevalent all along India's coasts. The ancient technology enabled ancient Indian mariners to undertake long-distance voyages to West Asia, Africa, and Southeast Asia long before the advent of modern navigation and metallurgy. As part of India's efforts to rediscover and revive indigenous knowledge systems, this project came to life through an extraordinary collaboration between the Ministry of Culture, the Indian Navy, and Goa-based shipbuilders Messrs. Hodi Innovations. Built by traditional artisans under the guidance of Master Shipwright Sri Babu Shankaran and supported by extensive research, design, and testing by the Indian Navy and academic institutions, the vessel is fully seaworthy now and capable of oceanic navigation. It is a matter of great pride and confidence for all that the Indian Navy oversaw the design, construction, and technical validation of INSV Kaundinya. Every aspect of this vessel, from its hull geometry to its square cotton sails and steering oars, was based on historical iconography and meticulous research. When the ship was formally commissioned in May 2025 at the Karwar Naval Base, it became not just a preservation of heritage, but a living, sailing monument, using only wind and traditional navigation, retracing historic trade routes across the oceans. The vessel is named after the legendary mariner Kaundinya, who is believed to have sailed from India to Southeast Asia in ancient times, and the ship embodies India's historic role as a maritime nation. So once again, we'd like to show you a few special short films about this project that led to the creation of INSV Kaundinya.
For millennia, India has been a maritime civilization.
Namaskar. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the historic occasion of the flag-off ceremony of INSV Kaundinya as the ship is ready to commence a maiden oceanic voyage from the historic port of Porbandar to Muscat, the capital of the Sultanate of Oman. A voyage which is one of the most historic transocean trading routes of ancient India. Ladies and gentlemen, as we await the arrival of our dignitaries, let me brief you about the sequence of today's program. The ceremony shall commence in a short while from now upon the arrival of the guest of honor, the Honorable Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman, His Excellency Mr. Issa Saleh Abdullah Saleh Al Shibani. Initially, the officer in charge of Indian Navy's Ocean Sailing Node, Captain Prashant Menon, shall present a briefing on INSV Kaundinya and the mission which is about to commence. Thereafter, the Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Western Naval Command, Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan, shall address the gathering, and that would be followed by a speech by the guest of honor. Thereafter, there shall be a presentation of a very special memento to our guest of honor, and after conclusion of the presentation ceremony, the dignitaries shall proceed to meet the crew of INSV Kaundinya and conduct the flag-off ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the responsibility of all of us to maintain the dignity and decorum of this landmark occasion. During the program, kindly remain seated and please keep your mobile phones on silent mode. For convenience of all guests, washrooms are positioned towards your left side, and in case any guest feels discomfort or a medical situation, there is a medical team and an ambulance in attendance. Please contact the duty personnel who are positioned all around the seating area. We would also like to inform all guests that in the enclosed dining area towards your right side, exit on the far side to ensure safety of all persons in case of any adverse situation. But in my personal opinion, there will be no adverse situation during the lunch, because even the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi personally complimented the Indian Navy for its excellent standards of food and catering logistics. So, ladies and gentlemen, what makes this day so special? A historic landmark to celebrate India's ancient maritime heritage? Let us have a look at a few short films that are going to show you how this special project led to the creation of INSV Kaundinya.
For millennia, India has been a maritime civilization. Its destiny
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all members of the audience, I'd like to wish a very warm welcome to Vice Admiral Gulcharan Singh, Chief of Personnel of the Indian Navy. So your presence is always inspiring. So dear guests, as we wait for the arrival of our guest of honor, let me brief you about INSV Kaundinya, which is Indian Navy's pioneering stitched wooden sailing vessel that revives India's ancient shipbuilding and seafaring traditions. The vessel shall be flagged off today for her maiden oceanic voyage from Porbandar, Gujarat to Muscat, the capital of the Sultanate of Oman, symbolically retracing the historic maritime routes that connected ancient India with countries and communities across the Indian Ocean. Shri Sanjeev Sanyal, the economic advisor to the Prime Minister of India, was inspired by a 5th century painting in the Ajanta caves, and drawing upon traditional shipbuilding techniques, Shri Sanjeev Sanyal conceptualized this project as a tangible tribute to India's maritime legacy, to stitch together history and modernity by resurrecting the stitched ship method, where wooden planks are sewn together using coir ropes and coconut fiber, sealed with natural resin, an engineering marvel which is practiced by Indian shipwrights for centuries. Inspired by depictions of ancient Indian ships and constructed entirely using traditional stitched plank techniques, INSV Kaundinya represents a rare convergence of history, craftsmanship, and modern naval expertise. As part of India's efforts to rediscover and revive indigenous knowledge systems, this project came to life through an extraordinary collaboration between the Ministry of Culture, the Indian Navy, and Goa-based shipbuilders Messrs. Hodi Innovations. Unlike contemporary vessels, the wooden planks of INSV Kaundinya are stitched together using coconut coir ropes and sealed with natural resins, reflecting a shipbuilding tradition once prevalent along India's coasts. And the ancient technology enabled Indian mariners to undertake long-distance voyages to West Asia, Africa, Southeast Asia, long before the advent of modern navigation and metallurgy. It is a matter of great pride and confidence for all that the Indian Navy oversaw the design, construction, and technical validation of INSV Kaundinya. Every aspect of this vessel, from its hull geometry to its square cotton sails and steering oars, was based on historical iconography and meticulous research. When the ship was formally commissioned in May 2025 at the Karwar Naval Base, it became not just a preservation of heritage, but a living sailing monument using only wind and traditional navigation, retracing historic trade routes across the oceans. Named after the legendary mariner Kaundinya, who believed to have sailed from India to Southeast Asia in ancient times, the ship embodies India's historic role as a maritime nation. Ladies and gentlemen, as we await the arrival of our dignitaries, let me also share with you inspiring facts about our senior officers. Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, assumed charge as the Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief of Western Naval Command on the 31st of July 2025. Vice Admiral Swaminathan is a specialist in communications and electronic warfare. Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan's educational qualifications include a BSc degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, MSc in Telecommunications from Cochin University, Master of Arts in Defence Studies from King's College London, Master of Philosophy in Strategic Studies from Mumbai University, and a PhD in International Studies from Mumbai University. As a distinguished flag officer of the Indian Navy, he has served as the Chief of Personnel, the Controller of Personnel Services, Chief of Staff of the Western Naval Command, Flag Officer, Defence Advisory Group, Flag Officer Commanding Western Fleet, and Flag Officer Sea Training. And prior to his current appointment as the Flag Officer in Chief Western Naval Command, Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan served as the 46th Vice Chief of Naval Staff at the Naval Headquarters. For today's historic occasion, our guest of honor is His Excellency Ambassador Issa Saleh Al-Shibani, the Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman. We shall be witnessing the arrival of His Excellency Ambassador Al-Shibani in a short while from now. Ambassador Al-Shibani is a graduate in English literature and a master's degree holder in international business and diplomacy. His professional accomplishments include several international diplomatic appointments. And prior to his present appointments, Ambassador Al-Shibani was the Deputy Head of Mission in the Oman Embassy at London. And now, as the Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman, His Excellency Ambassador Al-Shibani is one of the youngest ambassadors in India. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall witness the arrival of our guest of honor in a few moments from now. But there is time for me to share with you the details about those special people who were involved in creation of INSV Kaundinya. Captain Prashant Menon, officer in charge of the ocean sailing node, has been the backbone in preparation for this historic voyage. He led the training of the crew, planned the expedition in meticulous detail, and brought to this mission the experience of having steered several successful oceanic expeditions and circumnavigations for India. His extensive experience and impeccable professionalism has ensured that the crew are fully prepared to undertake this historic voyage. So who was the person? Who was the person behind creating such a design? Who created reality from theory? Commander Y. Hemant Kumar, a naval architect, was the driving force behind turning history into a living vessel from the very first conceptual discussions, beginning with a meeting with Sri Sanjeev Sanyal in December 2021 at New Delhi. Commander Hemant Kumar led the entire journey of conceptualization, design and construction. With no precedents, no drawings, and no modern design guidelines to rely on, the ship had to be conceived entirely from first principles. Under his stewardship, a centuries-old Ajanta painting was transformed into an ocean-going sailing vessel. And as we move on, I'd like to wish a very warm welcome to Sri Sanjeev Sanyal, the Economic Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of India. Like we mentioned, the man who was behind bringing this dream into reality. And members of the media have been inquiring about who is going to be the skipper of this vessel. Commander Vikas Shiron has taken on the responsibility very few skippers anywhere in the world have ever faced. To command a wooden vessel powered by ancient sails and guided by an ancient steering system demands just not seamanship, but exceptional courage and judgment. By accepting this challenge, Commander Vikas Shiron embodies the very spirit of exploration that this voyage celebrates. For members of the media, you must know the fact that Commander Vikas Shiron, who is the skipper of INSV Kaundinya, as the ship is about to begin its maiden oceanic voyage, Commander Vikas Shiron is also a mountaineer. So he's a person who takes on challenges and always overcomes with his courage and judgments and absolute spirit of being a naval officer. The crew of INSV Kaundinya are not merely sailors, they are pioneers with no living tradition or handbook to guide them. Just imagine, you're going to go and cross an oceanic voyage without a handbook, no standard operating procedures, with no living tradition or handbook to guide them. They had to learn how to sail this ancient stitched ship from first principles, rediscovering lost knowledge through practice, patience, and perseverance. Their bravery lies not only venturing into the open sea, but in choosing to do so without precedent, guided by commitment, teamwork, and an unwavering faith in the ship and in each other. In every sense, they are going to be creating history. On behalf of all members of the audience, I'd like to wish the very best of luck to Captain Prashant Menon, Commander Hemant Kumar, Commander Vikas Sharon, and the entire crew of INSV Kaundinya. Best wishes from all of us who are present here, but I can tell you, the entire nation feels and prays for your success. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few moments from now, we are about to witness the arrival of our guest of honor, the Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman, Ambassador Al-Shibani. The Honorable Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman, His Excellency Mr. Issa Saleh Abdullah Saleh Al-Shibani. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have the presence of the Honorable Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman, His Excellency Mr. Issa Saleh Abdullah Saleh Al-Shibani, as the guest of honor for today's historic occasion. I request all members of the audience to kindly welcome our guest of honor, His Excellency Ambassador Al-Shibani, with a hearty round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, how fortunate we are to be present here today to witness this historic occasion, the flag-off ceremony of INSV Kaundinya, which is about to commence her maiden oceanic voyage from the historic port of Porbandar to Muscat, the capital of the Sultanate of Oman, a voyage which is one of the most historic transocean trading routes on planet Earth, and also the foundation of the historic friendly relations between India and the Sultanate of Oman. Under the visionary leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, our country has achieved yet another historic landmark that we shall witness today, as this iconic, handcrafted, traditionally built wooden sailing vessel, yes, you heard me right, handcrafted, traditionally built wooden sailing vessel INSV Kaundinya is ready to cast off on her maiden oceanic voyage, a mission that revives the spirit and glorifies the ancient maritime heritage of India. Thanks to the generous and motivational support of our Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh, and under the dynamic leadership of our Navy Chief, Admiral Dinesh Tripathi, the Indian Navy worked in tandem with the Ministry of Culture and Goa-based shipbuilders, Messrs. Hodi Innovations, and our Navy led this very special project as a part of India's efforts to rediscover and revive our ancient and traditional knowledge systems. 1,000 years back, there was no electricity. There was no engineering. There was no machinery. There were no computers. There was no internet. And definitely there was no social media. So just imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the level of craftsmanship, skills and expertise that existed in ancient India to build such an ocean-going, deep-sea sailing vessel using only wood, coir ropes and natural resins. And imagine the scientific and maritime knowledge of ancient Indian mariners who voyaged across oceans simply relying on astronavigation. I would now like to request Captain Prashant Menon, officer in charge of the Ocean Sailing Node, to kindly present his briefing on INSV Kaundinya.
May I have your permission to resume, sir? His Excellency Issa Saleh Abdullah Saleh Al Shibani, Ambassador of Sultanate of Oman to India, Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan, AVSM, VSM, Flag Officer Commanding in Chief, Western Naval Command, Flag Officers, Senior Officers, distinguished guests, crew of INSV Kaundinya, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It is a great honor that I, as officer in charge of the Ocean Sailing Node, entrusted with the training of the crew and planning the voyage of INSV Kaundinya, stand before you on this historic day. For those of us directly involved, this moment marks culmination of a long journey of preparation, learning and responsibility. Ocean Sailing Node has over the years executed several blue water sailing expeditions, including circumnavigations, that tested endurance at sea and Navy's planning skill ashore. Yet I must state with humility that training of crew and planning the voyage of INSV Kaundinya has brought challenges unlike any we have faced before. Kaundinya is a traditionally stitched wooden vessel, built using natural material and ancient methods. Her structural behavior, rigging and response to sea are fundamentally different from contemporary sailboats. Her rigging is entirely traditional, rigging with natural fiber, wooden blocks and square sails requiring constant manual handling. Even the simplest evolution like hoisting, lowering, tacking, jibing demands time, teamwork and physical effort. Training the crew for such a vessel has therefore required careful balance. While the crew is experiencing this form of sailing for the first time, the open ocean permits no margin for error. The approach has been patient yet rigorous, ensuring that each sailor understands not only the procedures but the ship herself. Their preparation has included traditional seamanship, basic woodship carpentry, coir rope work, handling wooden blocks, square ship evolution, manual sail hoisting and lowering in varying conditions, working aboard on traditional rigging with as much as 25 days and night at sea. A further challenge lies in the modern maritime environment. Centuries ago, when ships sailed, the seas were vast and largely uncluttered. Today, the Arabian Sea is one of the world's busiest maritime environment, with heavy commercial traffic, constrained sea lanes and complex traffic separation schemes. Planning this voyage has required integrating the ancient sailing techniques with modern navigational awareness, safety protocols and coordination while preserving the authenticity of the expedition. What gives me confidence is the crew. I know their strength, discipline and commitment. They have trained hard, adapted with maturity and embraced the demands of the ship. They understand the significance of attempting to sail a traditionally built Indian vessel across open ocean after centuries. I express my gratitude to the leadership of Indian Navy for supporting an endeavor that stands at the intersection of heritage, training and operational challenge. I also thank institutions, designers, craftsmen, boat builders and historians whose dedication has made this voyage possible. The voyage from Porbandar to Muscat will take 15 to 16 days, followed by 20 to 22 days of return passage, amounting to nearly 40 days at sea. And as she sails from these historic shores towards Oman, she carries the weight of history and the professionalism of today's Indian sailor. Jai Hind.
Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now display a special short film about this special national project, INSV Kaundinya.
Today, on this historic day, the launch of the Stitched Ship, a remarkable project envisioned by the Government of India. Ships were constructed without nails, using ingenious techniques of stitching wooden planks together.
Both side, lower and upper press ready.
So this design is actually based on a painting in Ajanta. So I made this idea to many people, including the Honorable Prime Minister, and so they supported me, funding from the Ministry of Culture and the support of the Indian Navy. The fact that the technology that was used to build these ancient ships was a very peculiar one. They didn't nail their ships together for the most part. Dominant technology was of stitching these ships together. The planks were taken and they were stitched together.
Here the planks that we are using are called Anjali. So this wood needs to be bent to suit the shape of the ship. The way we achieve that is, plank is first is clamped and then you pour hot water on that. So that is poured over a period of 2-3 days and then hammered, and that shape is got.
To understand what the keel is, this is the backbone of the ship, and this is in some ways has to be the strongest part, and that has already been laid out. It goes all the way. Remember, the ship is going to be 21 meters long.
Foundation രണ്ട് പീസാണ് അത് ജോയിൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം. ആദ്യം നമ്മൾ അതിൻ്റെ ലെവൽ കണക്കാക്കി ജോയിൻ്റ് ആക്കും. എന്നിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കട്ടേൻ്റെ മുകളിൽ സീറ്റിംഗ് ആയിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ കട്ട വെക്കും. കട്ട മുകളിൽ ആ ഫൗണ്ടേഷൻ ഇങ്ങനെ വെക്കും.
I said, where is the design? He said, this is the design. Can you build it?
It is a much bigger challenge than building Madai and Tari.
We had to procure the right kind of wood while procuring the raw material. We are procuring natural materials like kundrus, which is a resin that they are using between the planks.
इसी नहीं है, इसी का काम नहीं है, हार्ड वर्क है.
The design is also being tested at IIT Madras. They are going to do experiments and validate it.
There have been a lot of challenges that we've had to face, since the construction of the ship. The rains in Goa have been quite crazy this year.
Do remember that this ship is 1600 to 2000 year old design. This Harappan anchor is a 4 to 5000 year old design.
I now request Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan, Flag Officer Commanding in Chief, Western Naval Command. Sir, could you please address the audience?
His Excellency Issa Saleh Abdullah Al Shibani, Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman to India, Shri Sanjeev Sanyal, Member Economic Advisory Council to the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Vice Admiral Gurcharan Singh, Chief of Personnel, Vice Admiral Praveen Nair, Controller of Personal Services, Rear Admiral Sandeep Verma, CSO PNA West Naval Command, Rear Admiral Sritanu Guru, Flag Officer Gujarat Naval Area, Brigadier Issa Al Nawi, Defense Attaché of the Sultanate of Oman to India, Ms. Anil Khemji and Mr. Asher, our guests and friends from Oman, Commander Vikas Chevron, the skipper, and his crew of INSV Kaundinya, Master Shipwright Sri Babu Shankaran, representatives and artisans from the Hodi Innovations Private Limited, officers, sailors, distinguished guests, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and greetings to all of you. At the outset, I express my profound gratitude to our guest of honor, His Excellency Issa Saleh Abdullah Al Shibani, Ambassador of the Sultanate of Oman to India, for accepting our invitation and sparing his valuable time to be with us this afternoon. Excellency, we are truly honored by your presence here today. Your kind participation in this event is a fitting reflection of the strong, warm, and time-tested bonds of friendship between our two great nations. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a matter of immense pride for me to be here today to flag off this historic maiden voyage of INSV Kaundinya. For us, this ship is not just a unique vessel taking to the seas. It is a live example of India's rich maritime legacy being revived with high dedication, passionate scholarship and sense of history, skilled craftsmanship, and unmatched professional rigor. From the Navy's perspective, INSV Kaundinya represents a remarkable confluence of history, engineering, and seamanship. The Indian Navy has been associated with this project from the very beginning, from conceptualizing the vessel based on historical references, interpreting ancient shipbuilding depictions, developing the ship design, and overseeing construction, to undertaking trials, training the crew, and sailing the vessel across the open oceans to validate her design and seakeeping. It has been a unique journey for all of us, yet an immensely educative and enriching one. At this juncture, of course, I'd like to acknowledge and applaud the vision and contribution of Shri Sanjeev Sanyal, member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, who germinated the idea of the stitched ship based on his extensive knowledge and love for our country's maritime history. Today, as we flag off this majestic sailing vessel, I'm somewhat certain that he seems a very satisfied man. The fact that he's part of the crew that sails in a short while from now is indeed a reflection of his personal commitment and steadfast support to the project from conceptualization to realization today. In fact, it was he who suggested the name for the vessel, as well as the Ganda Berunda and the sun motifs that adorn her sails and the carved Simmayali on her bows. So, we owe you a collective debt of gratitude. I also acknowledge the painstaking efforts of the Indian Navy's Directorate of Naval Design, its designers, and the skilled artisans, shipwrights and workmen and workwomen from the Hodi Innovations Private Limited for their effort in translating an artistic representation and fragmented historical knowledge into a stable, seaworthy design while faithfully retaining ancient construction principles. Working without the comfort of conventional design rules or modern materials, they demonstrated that acute engineering thinking can INSV Kaundinya allow me to reflect a bit on the complex challenges faced in building and sailing a ship like this. As was brought out very eloquently by Captain Prashant Menon, the OIC of the Ocean Sailing Node, operating a traditionally stitched wooden vessel rigged with coir ropes, wooden pulleys and square sails, and powered entirely by wind, demands skills of a very different from those required to sail modern sailing vessels. Every evolution, whether hoisting or lowering her sails or altering course through tacking and jibing as we call them, or balancing the ship against the forces of sea, the swell, the wind, all of this requires physical effort, smooth coordination, and world-class training, along with a deep awareness of and sensitivity to the vessel's behavior and maneuvering characteristics. Our officers and sailors have trained extensively to understand their unique responses, limitations, and capabilities. This voyage from Porbandar to Muscat will undoubtedly be an extreme test of skill, seamanship, professionalism, and more importantly, of mental and physical resilience. The fact that sailing such a vessel across the open seas is a feat not attempted for centuries in our country shows this voyage in special light, and I'm sure it is a challenge worthy of our finest mariners. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, this voyage is just not symbolic. It is of deep strategic and cultural significance to our nation as we aim to resurrect and revive ancient Indian maritime concepts and capabilities in all their forms. But why have we chosen Gujarat for the flag off ceremony? Well, the Indian Ocean has always been central to India's maritime identity, and few regions embody this heritage as powerfully as the coastal state of Gujarat. From the ancient dockyard of Lothal, one of the world's earliest maritime hubs, to thriving ports that linked India with West Asia, Africa, and Europe, the shores of Gujarat have seen centuries of seafaring enterprise. To this day, hundreds of dhows from this coast venture into the deep seas, connecting not just peoples, goods, and local economies, but also civilizations across the oceans. It is therefore fitting that INSV Kaundinya is being flagged off from Gujarat, where India's maritime story took shape and where the iconic National Maritime Heritage Complex will continue paying rich tribute to our seafaring legacy in the decades to come. By sailing the Kaundinya along an extremely historic route, we are not only retracing ancient pathways of trade, navigation, and cultural exchange, but also reaffirming India's position as a natural maritime bridge across the Indian Ocean and a responsible maritime nation committed to peace, cooperation, and shared prosperity. This voyage reconnects the past with the present, reminding us that the depth of our history strengthens India's future on the seas. The presence of His Excellency and distinguished guests from the Indian diaspora in Oman, in a way, reflects the deep historical connect and bonds of friendship we share with key partners in the Indian Ocean region, and we are extremely grateful to them for accepting our invitation and being part of this important event. For me personally, this is a powerful reminder that the strength of a modern navy not only rests on advanced platforms, sensors, and weapons, but equally on its history, traditions, and ability to learn, adapt, and innovate. Maritime power is ultimately a product of accumulated knowledge of the seas, of human skill and endurance, and of traditions refined and strengthened over centuries of seafaring. Projects such as INSV Kaundinya reconnect us with these foundational elements of maritime thinking. As the Indian Navy continues to modernize itself and enhance its combat capabilities, it also recognizes its responsibility as one of the key custodians of India's maritime heritage. Preserving this heritage enriches our strategic culture, strengthens our maritime consciousness, and inspires future generations of sailors and citizens alike. The Navy today seeks to be a technologically capable force that is deeply rooted in its proud maritime past, secure in its present, and prepared for the challenges of the future. With these few words, ladies and gentlemen, I wish the skipper and crew of INSV Kaundinya fair winds, following seas, and many fathoms below the keel always. May you have a safe and successful voyage that meets all its objectives, inspires curiosity among our youth, contributes to strengthening maritime consciousness amongst our citizens, and serves as a shining example of India's timeless relationship with the seas. Good luck, Godspeed, Jai Hind.
Ladies and gentlemen, and dear spectators who are watching this broadcast across the oceans, we are so fortunate and inspired by the presence of Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan. For generations and generations of naval personnel, Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan has been and shall forever be an icon of inspiration for his dignified grace and composure. Sir. Now, I would like to request and welcome our guest of honor, His Excellency Ambassador Shibani. Sir, could you please come and address the gathering?
Namaste to you all. Good afternoon. Honorable Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan, senior officers of the Indian Navy and the Coast Guards, Oman Military Attaché, Brigadier Issa Nahawi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the gracious invitation and for the warm welcome extended to us this afternoon. It is a privilege to be in Porbandar for the flag-off ceremony of INCF Kaundinya, an occasion that celebrates India's proud maritime heritage and its enduring, safeguarding spirit. For the Sultanate of Oman, a nation shaped by the sea, this moment carries a special significance. Our peoples have long looked to the Indian Ocean not as boundary, but as a bridge carrying commerce and ideas, culture and friendship across its waters. The monsoon winds that once guided traditional ships between our ports also carried a shared understanding that prosperity grows when we remain connected, open, and cooperative. It is therefore especially meaningful that this project was announced in the joint vision for the future during the state visit of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq to India in December 2023. That vision captured our common determination to elevate this India-Oman partnership, deepening cooperation, strengthening trust, and investing in initiatives that speak to our shared history while serving our shared future. And it is equally fitting that we gather to see off this voyage after the visit of the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to the Sultanate of Oman in December 2025, a visit that reaffirmed at the highest level our commitment to a relationship built on mutual respect, strategic partnership, and close people-to-people ties. INCF Kaundinya represents more than a vessel setting sail. It symbolizes continuity between past and present, between heritage and innovation, and between two friendly nations that have for centuries understood the value of the sea as a space for cooperation. In today's world, the Indian Ocean remains central to our shared priorities: maritime safety and security, freedom of navigation, sustainable development, and resilience connectivity. I would like to convey my sincere appreciation to the Indian Navy and to all those who contributed to bringing this proud endeavor to life. I also extend my best wishes to Mr. Sanjeev and the crew for a safe and successful voyage. May the seas be calm and the winds favorable. Oman and India are bound not only by geography, but by history, and strengthened by trust. May this flag off be another milestone in our growing partnership. Thank you. Long live the friendship between the Sultanate of Oman and the Republic of India. Thank you.
Excellency Ambassador Al-Shibani, sir, we are delighted and grateful to have your presence on today's historic occasion, as our nations, India and Oman, are also celebrating 70 years of diplomatic relations since 1955. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you for a round of applause as an expression of gratitude to our guest of honor. We are about to have a special presentation now, and I'd like to pose a question to all members of the audience. You know, when you think about the future, only questions come to your mind. What is going to happen? How will we do it? Whether it will happen? Whether we will succeed? Not? Yes, no. Only questions come to the mind when you think of the future. But when you think of the past, and you think and study about ancient India, only inspiration comes to your hearts. And that is why I believe that all of us are truly fortunate to be witnessing this historic occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, to celebrate today's historic occasion and to express gratitude to our guest of honor, I now request Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan, Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Western Naval Command, to kindly present a special memento to our guest of honor, His Excellency Ambassador Al-Shibani. Ladies and gentlemen, to mark this historic occasion, I now request Rear Admiral Sritanu Guru, Flag Officer Commanding Gujarat Naval Area, to kindly present a special memento to Vice Admiral Krishna Swaminathan, the Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Western Naval Command. The ceremony now progresses to its next element. I would now like to request our flag officers to kindly proceed to the jetty for the ceremonial photographs with the crew of INSV Kaundinya. All members of the audience are requested to remain seated. In this element of the ceremony, our guest of honor and the dignitaries and flag officers shall celebrate by having some ceremonial photographs with the crew of INSV Kaundinya and have an interaction with members of the crew. Till the next formal announcement, all members of the audience are requested to kindly remain seated. Ladies and gentlemen, to keep the members of the audience a bit busy and thinking, I'd like to pose a small fact before you. दोस्तों, आपके सामने दुनिया में where everywhere we have technology, थोड़ी बहुत नेचुरल इंटेलिजेंस भी है, बाकी सब जगह तो आर्टिफिशियल ही है। अब आप सोचिए आज की दुनिया में अगर आपको यहाँ से वहाँ जाना हो 5 किलोमीटर दूर, नए जगह में, नए स्थान में, और हाथ में मोबाइल फ़ोन ना हो, या आपके जो ड्राइवर हैं उनके पास मोबाइल फ़ोन ना हो, तो कितनी तकलीफ़ होगी एक नए शहर में केवल 5 किलोमीटर की दूरी तय करने में। तो अब आप सोचिए कि आज से हज़ारों साल पहले हमारे पूर्वज जब महासागर को पार करते थे, उस समय कोई टेक्नोलॉजी क्या, बिजली भी नहीं थी। इस विषय के बारे में जब सोचेंगे तब आपको एक प्रेरणा मिलेगी अपने दिल में कि हमारे पूर्वज किस लेवल के थे, कितना ज्ञान था उनको, और साइंस और मैथ्स में कितने आगे थे। नेवी बैंड के ड्रम्स को सुन के बड़ा अच्छा लगता है, दिल की धड़कन भी तेज़ हो जाती है। तो कई लोग ऐसे हैं जिनको एक गलत फहमी है, कॉलोनियल ट्रेडिशंस। मुझे समझाना पड़ता है लोगों को, ये कॉलोनियल ट्रेडिशंस की गलत फहमी है आपको। आप सुन रहे थे ना, अभी ढोल बज रहा था, अंग्रेजी में बैंड बोलते हैं उसको। और आज से 5,000 साल पहले कुरुक्षेत्र के युद्ध स्थल पे भी ढोल बजते थे, नगाड़े बजते थे, और भगवान श्री कृष्ण युद्ध विराम की घोषणा भी अपने शंख पंचजन्य से करते थे। तो इसीलिए जहाँ भी आपको मौका मिले, भारतवासियों को ये बात समझाइएगा और उनको प्रेरणा प्राप्त होगी कि जो संगीत की प्रथा है वो प्राचीन भारत की प्रथा है। ये कॉलोनियल लोग नहीं लेके आए यहाँ पे, वो तो यहाँ से आके सीख के गए हैं। Ladies and gentlemen, I think we must compliment the team of the Indian Navy that creates the facilities for such live streaming that we can be seated here in comfort and witnessing the entire historic occasion. That is Ambassador Al-Shibani now boarded the ship You can see the dignitaries are there, and we can see Ambassador Al Shibani. The moment he stepped on board the ship, he was quite speechless. That is why I requested him to give his speech right now, before he went to the ship. पता था वहाँ जाके बोलती बंद हो जाएगी लोगों की. ऐसी ऐसी फीलिंग आएगी जहाज को देख के, कितनी मेहनत से बनाया. May I request all invitees to now please proceed to the jetty. Invitees are requested to proceed to the jetty, to the designated enclosure. Rest of the members of the audience are requested to please remain seated. सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है अपने स्थानों पे बने रहिए और कुछ ही समय बाद लंच के लिए सब लोग अपने दाहिनी तरफ शेड में प्रस्थान करेंगे.
Check, 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 check.
Your kind attention, please. All sailors, officers, and families are requested to please proceed to the dining hall for lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we must compliment the team of the Indian Navy that creates the facilities for such live streaming that we can be seated here in comfort and witnessing the entire historic occasion. That is Ambassador Al-Shibani now boarded the ship. You can see the dignitaries are there, and we can see Ambassador Al-Shibani. The moment he stepped on board the ship, he was quite speechless. That is why I requested him to give his speech right now, before he went to the ship. पता था वहाँ जाके बोलती बंद हो जाएगी लोगों की. ऐसी फीलिंग आएगी जहाज को देख के, कितनी मेहनत से बनाया. May I request all invitees to now please proceed to the jetty to have a close look at what's going on there, and please remain in the designated enclosure. A beautiful capture by drone technology and live streaming of this occasion is going on. Invitees are requested to proceed to the jetty, to the designated enclosure. Rest of the members of the audience are requested to please remain seated. सभी दर्शकों से निवेदन है अपने स्थानों पर बने रहिए और कुछ ही समय बाद लंच के लिए सब लोग अपने दाहिनी तरफ शेड में प्रस्थान करेंगे.